Thank you for taking time out of your day to come to a session where you probably have no earthly idea what's about to happen. And I would join you in that, except I'm supposed to be the guy responsible for the next 55 minutes, so I've got some kind of idea about what we're getting ready to do here. But it's an adventure that we've undertaken here, a cooperative effort between the Oklahoma Coaches Association and the Oklahoma Secondary School Activities Association in relation to a situation that we all feel like that has a true purpose and a true meaning for everyone involved, which is we're interested in improving the quantity of coaches and the quantity of coaching years and the quality of coaching years. And so through a discussion at both offices and through a discussion with both boards, we have put together about 50 minutes here of things that we think would be beneficial for coaches, especially young coaches. And it's directed a little bit towards young coaches, but it's also directed towards those who would mentor young coaches. So it has a deep purpose, which I hope becomes obvious here after it's over with at least. And we've got some folks here that are going to share some things with you. I'd like to start off with a short video here to kind of tell you why we're here today.
Coaching is one of the most impactful professions in our society today. The impact from one individual coach can change the life of a student, direct a student's path that has no focus or goal toward a future that is full of promise. All of us who sit in this room today have been influenced to the profession of coaching because we have been impacted by the actions of a coach. Rewards in the world of coaching are priceless, but they are not always tangible. The opportunity to share in the experience of winning, to assist a team or individual in overcoming adversity, and to witness firsthand the growth of young people to adulthood can be measured in any terms recognized in our society. No other profession today provides the opportunities that coaching does. As wide and as varied are the methods, so are the reasons students choose to participate.
My reason why I play football is for my family.
I run for Coach Holton.
I play for my grandpa, who instilled discipline in me.
My reason why is for school pride.
And just like with every other aspect of life, rewards have a price. That payment can sometimes come through the stresses of the world we work in. The seemingly insurmountable obstacles at times in coaching can lead to burnout and frustration, which ushers in an early exit from the profession. That is our concern. The shortening of the coaching careers of too many young, talented coaches, and the impact on the quality of the coaching life now. That is what has led us to being here today. How do some coaches make it past that initial dismal phase? What is the insight longtime coaches possess that younger coaches do not? Maybe by choice, maybe by accident, these coaches have found the work-life balance that has allowed them to deal with the stresses of coaching and to avoid, or at the very least, overcome that burnout that takes coaches out of the profession. That is why we are here today, to identify some of the prime triggers for stress, engage in meaningful conversations, provide valuable resources to aid in achieving the balance between the coaching life and the real world, thus extending the coaching lifetime of a generation of coaches while increasing the quality of the coaching life now.
So it is that balance we're going to talk about today, and we're going to talk about some things that impact that balance. But to talk about balance to start with, the first gentleman that's going to come and share with us is a former high school coach in our state, just retired from college coaching, and he has a tremendous passion for coaching. Coach Chris Thurman.
How y'all doing today? You know what? I want y'all to listen really close because I'm a professional dog walker now. Okay, that's my job, and since I became a professional dog walker, I pretty much have all the answers. You know, so everybody listen close. We're gonna have a good time. Three books that I want you to write down, because one of the things that I think adds the most balance to our coaching life is what we expose ourselves to. but I'm going to give you 3 books right here. The Road to Character by David Brooks, phenomenal book. And I'm gonna reference some things, but from his book in just a second. The other 2 are by the same author, Ryan Holiday. They're short reads. One's called The Obstacle is the Way, and the other one is called Ego is the Enemy by Ryan Holiday. Now you can read those books. They're really, really short reads. The Road to Character is pretty long, but it's worth every page. Now, here's the thing about balance. Balance is a word that we use in our profession, and sometimes I think it can be misunderstood. Because make no mistake, in our profession, we're tied to the scoreboard. All right, we are. Whether we like it, whether we don't like it, whatever it is. But we're tied to the scoreboard. So if you want your platform and your message to be heard, then be successful. All right? Because you can have the greatest message in the world, but you go 0-27, or you don't win, or you're not successful, okay, people aren't going to listen to whatever your message is. So remember, that is job 1. Now, within that job, now it's up to you to find a way to balance your life out, all right? Whether it's basketball, whether it's baseball, whether it's football, it's not just all X's and O's. And the number 1 way that you balance yourself out as a coach is to make sure that every day you're talking to your players, you're talking to your fellow coaches about something other than football. I did this for a long time. I did this for 43 years. There are 2 things that I'm really, really, really proud of, and I'll close with some of these things. One is that every school that I was ever fortunate enough to coach at, we got every player registered to vote. Every player registered to vote. And we got them to take part in the process. The other thing is the first 10 minutes of every day when I was a coordinator is we started the meeting with a quote of the day. And it might be by St. Augustine. It might be John Kennedy. It might be FDR. It might be Shakespeare. Anything, okay, that pertained to them and to their life. We had pictures, we had bullet points, all that. And those kids, that was the way that you got balance in your life, in your coaching life, and also in their life. Now, because kids want to play for somebody that they think cares about them. And that was a way to relate to them. That was a way to balance. Now, balance, again, can be a misunderstood word. Balance doesn't mean that you don't want to work, okay? It doesn't mean that. It doesn't mean that, hey, I'm looking for a way to go in there and get in there real quick and get out and say, okay, I've got a balanced life. That's not it. What balance means is you organize your life in such a way, you organize your coaching in such a way that you're working efficiently. All right, we used to operate, the most efficient thing that we thought was the way to operate was a 12-hour rule. Okay, now obviously coaching in college is a little bit different, but I coached in high school for 7 years too, so I understand the differences. But we had the 12-hour rule. If we came at 7, we tried to leave at 7. All right, that wasn't the case on every staff I was on, but that worked. That kept us from just being up there guarding our pencils, because I've worked at places too where I had to guard my pencils from about 9 till midnight. Again, I never lost a pencil in all those years, but I don't know how much I accomplished during that period of time. Now, here's the other thing. That back to David Brooks's book, okay? And guys, especially when you're young, you're doing 2 things from the time that you're born until you die. All right? Is you're either building your resume or you're building your obituary. All right? Now think about that. When you're building your resume, that's like, okay, I coached at Moore High School. All right? I coached at Union High School. I coached at Jinx High School. I coached at Ada. All right? Those kind of things. Those are resume builders. But obituary things are, golly, you know what? I love playing for that guy. I love playing for him. I love playing for her, because that coach cared about me. That coach taught me how to be a better person. That coach taught me how to be a better student. That coach taught me how to be involved politically. That coach taught me not to just listen to sound bites, but to form my own opinion. That's what it means to build your obituary. Now, the classic obituary statement. John Maxwell says this, and this is on my father's tombstone because he was this way, all right? But this is what you want somebody to say about you when you finish coaching is, criticize me and I may not like you. Flatter me and I may not believe you. Ignore me and I may not forgive you. But encourage me and I will never forget you. Now, that's an obituary thing. That's how you get balance in your life. That's how that you can walk off the field and you go, all right, we played in this bowl game. We've got this ring on. We've done this. We've done this. We've done this. Okay, those things matter. I'm not telling you they don't matter. They do matter. But what really matters is how do you balance those things out? How do kids come back and they talk to you 25, 30 years after you coached them? I had a guy the other night, and I'm proud of this, okay? I had a guy the other night sent me a text. He said, Coach, he said, I voted for the first time in the last election, and when I went to the polls, I could hear your voice. Okay? That's balance. That's what balance is. All right? That guy was also a great player. He was a phenomenal player. Great tackler, intercepted the ball, could cover anybody. But when he talks about that, rather than just, hey, Coach, you taught me how to backpedal, great, okay, great. And I'm not saying it's not important because it was important, but the other things are important too. And every time that you walk in your office, in your meeting room, on the field, that's the way that we all need to be thinking, all right? How do I spend a little bit more time of being a complete person? We call it, every place that we ever were, we call it being a Renaissance man. Guys used to laugh about it, okay? Know a little bit about everything. You don't have to know everything, but know a little bit. Know when somebody tells you something politically or a soundbite or whatever, go, wait, where'd you hear that? Where'd you read that? Is that true? You know how long it takes to check something out now? It takes about 30 seconds to Google something out to say, okay, hey, here's how it really is. That's balance. That's exactly what balance is, all right? How do you make those guys? How do you make those guys a little bit better player, a little bit better student, a little bit better friend, a little bit better father, a little bit better whatever it is, person in the community, maybe a little bit better golfer, maybe a little bit better fisherman, because guys, there are other things in your life other than football. Now, please don't misunderstand what I'm saying. I'm not talking about not working or not being totally involved in your profession, because that's what you've got to do. Okay? How much we got? Okay. All right. Hey, thank you. Thank you. Okay?
As we sat as a staff at our office, and as I have been in every coach's office at any school I've ever worked at, we talked about things that were important to young coaches. And what we've identified today and what we're going to share with you is 4 thoughts about balance, 4 areas of life that we've identified. There's so many, and please don't limit it to just these 4, but there are 4 areas here that we've got folks that are going to come and share a couple minutes about each one of these 4 areas in our coaching life that we think could improve the quality and the quantity of being an excellent coach. Our next speaker is Coach Gary Rose, the former head football coach at Carl Albert, athletic director at Carl Albert, who's been semi-successful at what he's done the last few years. He's retired now, but he wants to share with you a few points about your faith and about your family.
Thank you, Mike. Thanks for allowing me to speak. Coach said football. I'm a football guy, too. I see lots of ladies. I see lots of sports. I'm here for three reasons, and I think you need to hear these. Number 1 is the Lord Jesus Christ. Number 2 is Sheila K. Marzola Rose, my wife. And the third one, I'm giving you 3 names, and this is why you're here. And Coach already has started this. In the 8th grade in Cushing, Oklahoma, there was a coach named Lee Cobb. And I was an 8th grader. That was 52 years ago. So I'm going to see your hands real quick. How many of you guys and gals have been influenced for good by a coach? 52 years ago, Lee Cobb encouraged me, bragged on me in front of the team, and my chest swelled, and he validated and encouraged and praise me. And from that point on, things changed. God used him in my life. I moved the next year to Shawnee, and I ran into a guy named Bob Pee Wee Williams and a guy named Frank Kennan, and that just continued with them in my high school years. And the spiritual dimension, that's what I'm going to talk about, spiritual dimension, faith and family. I don't know if Mike put me here on purpose, but I'm just going to tell you right how I feel and how God has dealt with me. But the spiritual dimension is the most important one because it lasts beyond this life. And so you must balance your life and include this dimension. And then you have a wife, a husband, and children that must be included. And if you neglect these two areas, then you will not have balance and you will struggle. I don't know if Coach Cobb in Cushing, when I was 8th grade, was a follower of Jesus or not. I just know this, that he, because of that coach, and if I could say to you, coach, all you coaches, some of you are early in your career, some of you midterm, some of you are in the fall. I just stepped out of it. If you knew that 50 years from now, something you said to a coach this fall, to a kid this fall, would impact their life forever, would that matter to you? Would that matter to you? I hope it does. And the most important thing you do is that you point them in the right direction as far as, and again, Coach has already said it, character. And character, number one, comes from the character giver, the lawgiver, the lover of your life, Jesus Christ. And so the spiritual dimension is extremely important for you to make a part of what you do. I'm not shy about that, and you may not agree. You may be beginning the journey. You may be looking for the journey. You may be in the journey. I don't know. For you baseball guys, I found this several years ago. I've read it to my parents every year since I found it. It's called the Matheny Manifesto. And I'm going to read to you one thing that Mike Matheny says, and this has just really encouraged me in the latter years of my life. My faith in Jesus Christ is a guide for me and my life, and I've never been one for forcing my faith down anyone's throat. But I also believe it to be cowardly and hypocritical to shy away from what I believe. So the spiritual dimension is a real dimension. It's unseen, it's true, and it will make a difference in your life. Seek that dimension, develop that dimension, go that direction. Now, on the way there, you as a person have the opportunity to live life and coach with Jesus Christ as your friend. He wants to be your friend. He would like to be your friend. You have a choice there, of course, to choose that. And I was going to tell you that I'm 65 now, and I wish I'd heard this when I was many of your ages, when I was 25 and 30 and 35 and 40. Life's a journey. Just like a football season, a basketball season is a journey. And one of the things I've said to 2 football teams that I've talked to this spring is don't give up, don't give up, don't give up, don't give up. I hope you say it to your football players, to your players every day, every week. But I would say that to you as a young coach, maybe a middle-aged coach, or an autumn of the life coach, is don't give up. Keep seeking, keep pursuing. It will pay off. One of the most important things I've discovered, and I don't know where you are with this, and by the way, life coaching is a journey and it's an adventure. It's a process. It does not happen overnight, and that's why I would say don't give up. This is not about a building, a denomination, an organization, or anything like that. It's about a personal walk with a real man who really lived and who died and who came back to life and wants to live life with you. And that has been one of the most recent discoveries of my life, about 8-10 years ago, after I spent 9 days in the hospital. So I just want to encourage you to make sure that you include in your journey the spiritual dimension. Now, on the way there, your spouse, your husband or your wife, your children must be included. And I've been married 44 years, and I coach 43. And I have the ideal coach's wife. She's absolutely phenomenal. So here's what I want to tell you about her, is that she and I were partners, and more so her than me, and I would give her way more credit than I would give myself. But in '88, we began to have kids in our house, And this was just kind of accidental, but one of the best things we ever did, and it enfranchised my wife into being a part of my coaching and a part of the kids I coached. And we had supper last week with a guy named David Oku, who's now in Europe playing football and fixing to go to grad school. And he was, can I use this word? He was a hellion in high school. And my wife had a great role in turning his life around. He's now 25, 26 and doing great. And then one of the greatest thrills of my life, coaches, is we get on a bus and I see Shane Farley's son, Jake, who's 9 or 10, and Brandon Johnson's son, Austin, get on that bus and ride with us to a ball game. I look down the sideline, and there's Austin and Jake chasing that football. They're our ball boys. And they are invested in and part of what their daddies are doing. All of you can do that as a parent. Include your children and include your spouse. I have 3 short things to read to you I think are extremely important. There's one God and one mediator between God and men, the man Christ Jesus. Jesus said to Thomas, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man comes to God our Father but through me. And the greatest theological truth of all the Scripture, and you know the song, Jesus loves you, this I know, for the Bible tells me so. Thanks.
As we discuss these points of balance, the very first one that we came to was you got to believe in something bigger than yourself, because the things that are going to happen to you are going to be much bigger than yourself. And so having that opportunity to have somewhere to go to, someplace to go to know that there is a peace beyond your immediate job, that's what the faith in the family aspect of that. Now, as Coach said, there's many different types of coaches in the room today. Some very early in career and some in the middle and some near the end. But I will tell you, as one who is more closer to the end of what's going on than the beginning, I wish someone would have had this visit that the next guy is going to talk about, because I think it's something if we all get down to it, there's nothing we can do about how much folks pay us. And we live in a state where we all accept that. But there's got to be a financial plan. There's got to be some type of financial goal as you start this thing and as you proceed through it. Ray Goldsby, a former athletic director in Moore Public Schools, former head football coach at Moore High Schools, going to come and share with us a few thoughts and a few points about the financial planning in a coach's life.
Thank you, Mike. I appreciate it very much, and I appreciate Mike and the OSSAA and the Coach Association to inviting us to speak at this panel, and it's a great honor. And it's kind of like, following Coach Rose, it's kind of like that guy that's telling you good news, bad news. You're going to get to play golf today, but bad news is you're going to tee off after Jordan Spieth. And so I kind of feel in that position right there. But some things I'm going to talk to you about, I wish someone had talked to me a long time ago when I first started my career, and I was in it for 32 years, and I might have been better off at the end. I don't know why they necessarily want me to talk on finance, other than all my coaches used to say I was tight and that my name was Goldstein instead of Goldsby. But the things that I want to talk to you about today are very important. And it's the quicker you can get started, the better off you're going to be. And let's start off. I'm just going to cover on the topics, go from topic 1 to so forth all the way through. Now, you can't coach for free, but they talk about people who are drawing Social Security and teacher retirement as being on a fixed income. Well, we're on a fixed income in coaching. And we can't dictate how much we're going to make. Our school district, the state of Oklahoma, tells me this is what you're going to make this year. Now, the next year it may be different, but I'm on a fixed budget. Now, sure, we can make some extra income. Maybe we'll work some camps. Maybe we'll go out and mow some yards, whatever. I may be able to get a little extra income, but basically, we're trying to live on a fixed income. And so that's when they tell you, well, this is what you're going to make, that's your gross amount. That's the gross amount that you're going to get paid. Okay? Then we start from there. And then the next thing is, consider where we're starting. Well, I'm starting right now. I don't care if it's your first year to coach or if you're your 30th year to coach. Everybody's got to start at the same time each year. And I'm going to start with that fixed income, whatever that may be. Well, I've got debt. Some of you just starting out, you may have student loan debts. Others, you got credit card debt. Let me just address that. Credit cards are the most important and probably the worst weapon we don't call it a weapon, that causes destruction financially in families. And this is why. It's easy to put it on a credit card because I'm not having to pay till later, okay? Use a debit card, not a credit card. What you don't realize, on that credit card, you're being charged from 12, 16, 20% interest on that credit card, okay? Well, let's say you got a $1,000 debt at the end of the month. He comes in there and sends you this nice statement, you owe $1,000. But, you can pay this minimum of $25. You get to keep your card, get to keep your credit rating and everything. So, that's simple. Do I have to pay $25 or do I pay $1,000? I'm going to pay $25. Well, if you owe $1,000 and you're paying $25 or whatever the minimum payment is each month, you're never, ever going to get out of debt because you're getting charged that 16, 18, 20% interest on the unpaid balance each month. So next month, that $25 you didn't even pay the interest off. So now instead of $1,000, it's $1,000 plus whatever you bought plus how much interest you owe. Same thing comes up again. It becomes a vicious cycle. The best thing you can do, and this is true statement, when I first graduated, and that was in the dark ages, I couldn't even get a gas credit card. I applied for a Phillips 66 gas credit card. They turned me down. But I had a room full of credit cards, Visa and all, MasterCard, all that I could get. And you take yourself today, how many times in the mail each day do you get brochures that say, hey, transfer your balance over to us and we'll take care of everything else? You got numerous opportunities. Well, turn those opportunities down. That's not an opportunity to go in debt, really. If you probably anymore you have to have a debit card, but if you have to have it, pay it off. Don't just pay the minimum. Or use that credit card to get in case of emergency. Yeah, a refrigerator goes out, a stove goes out, whatever. Use those in case of emergency. Use your debit card because they're taking cash out. Then you got X amount of cash to work with. Okay, and that goes into that item number 3, your first paycheck. I never forget my first paycheck. I got that and I said, that can't be right. They told me I was going to make this amount of here. That can't be right. Somebody screwed that up, really. What they show you is the gross amount. They don't tell you what you're going to get per month. Then they say you get that first check. They've taken out taxes, they've taken out insurance, taken out Social Security. And you look at that and say, there's no way. Hey, there's no way I'm going to be able to live to my next paycheck. How am I going to make it going into my next paycheck? Well, that's something that you've got to, you got all these debts in front of you. So that's where item number 4 comes in there. I need some type of financial plan. And I coached for 32 years, and I've been out since '97. I've been in financial services since that time. Wasn't near as enjoyable, wasn't near as much fun as coaching, but sometimes you have to do those things. Maybe if I'd listened to somebody tell me these things while I was coaching, I wouldn't have to work another job. Okay? Next thing, I'll be a Walmart greeter. But on this, starting a financial plan, there's not a coach in this room, not one coach, whether you're head coach, assistant, or whatever, that doesn't spend hours and hours and hours on a game plan on how I'm going to go against my opponent next week. Every one of you. That's part of the job. Well, part of your job financially is you got to sit down and make you a game plan financially. How am I going to attack this? That's going to be long lasting. That's going to be a lifetime. Coaching, even though I thought I was going to coach forever, and almost did, but that's going to be temporary. It's considered a life after coaching. And so I've got to sit down with, how do we start? How do I get a game plan? It's just like you start off a game plan. If I'm doing a game plan against a football team, what are their weaknesses? What are their strengths? Where am I going to attack? All that. You've got to sit down and physically sit down with a pen and paper and write down, here's my home mortgage payment. Here's my car payment. Here's what I pay to my church. Here's what I've got, maybe for student loans. Here's my credit card. Here's my food. Here's my utilities. Hopefully I got to maybe take my wife and family out for dinner, one night a month, whatever. And start from there. Now I've got to look. Here's my total expenses per month. And I look over at that paycheck and I say, oh, gee, there's no way. How am I going to cover that with this? Well, that's where you've got to tighten your belt. That's where you've got to make some tough decisions. It's not easy, I'm telling you. It's not easy. But the important thing, it doesn't matter what the amount is. That's insignificant. Just start with something. $5, $10, $15, $20. Okay? You may have to give up that $5 cup of coffee at Starbucks and say, oh, you know, McDonald's not a bad coffee. I'll go buy McDonald's this time instead of Starbucks. But somewhere, you've got to cut and find a place that I can save $5 or $10 or $15 out of each paycheck. And then that comes down to where with the starting on the long term and short term, on that goes. On this right here, with this game plan, you've got to include everything. But the bottom line is, you've got to live within your means. You've got to live within your means. Otherwise, it's just a vicious cycle on that. Then on the other, some things there's the three things, if you don't get anything else out of this talk, there's three important factors in this. First, and this is tough to do, this is just like habit forming, you have to pay yourself first. If you're like I was, you go, I'm going to save back X amount, I'm going to save back $10 at the end of the month. Well, I get my check, start paying the bills, gets down to now, pay the last bill, look down, ooh, golly, I can't save $10 this month. There's not enough in there, okay? Because you got to tighten your belt somewhere along the line. You got to determine what's going to be more important for you. The future on down the road, or being able to go to dinner 4 times versus, say, go 2 times. So that's what I mean in that pay yourself first. Write a check, $5, $10, like I say, the amount is not significant. As you get more salary, then you can put more back. But start with something and write that check to you and you put it in your savings account or whatever, okay? The second most important point to remember is start now. Start today. Don't quit. Don't procrastinate. I've got to start today. Everybody said, well, that sounds good. I'm going to start tomorrow. I'm going to start after the season's over. I've got too much to think about right now. Start today. Pay yourself first. Start today. And then the third thing, and this may be most important of all, I just heard this the other day. It's not how much you make. Everybody wants to make more and more and more. Okay? That's human nature. I want to make more and more and more. Making more is not the important thing. It's not how much you make. It's how much you keep and how much you save. And over time, if you start today, I don't care if you're in your first year or the 30th year. You wait till this is your 30th year or the 44th year or whatever, and I start then, you've wasted a lot of time, baby. You've wasted a lot of time that it can be building. Wealth isn't built overnight unless you're lucky to be a pro or got a good inheritance or win the lottery or whatever. Your accumulation of your money is going to require time to get there. And that's why it's not so much important as how much you invest. Let's start today with $10, whatever. And then the last thing in there, your resources. Wait, long-term, short-term. Short-term goals, get out of debt. Long-term goals, save for retirement. I'm going to tell you, the day I retired and got my first retirement check, I was like that first statement I said, you got to be kidding me. That ain't be right. In Oklahoma, when you retire, your retirement check is going to be 50% or less than what you're making right today. So you better have something else. And where do I go? They've got companies and people out there that will do it for free, or they may have to check other sources, but they've got people out there that will tell you, they'll guide you. They're a mentor for you. They'll show you how to get out of debt. Well, I'm telling you, the first thing they're going to say, well, what's your credit card? Let me see your credit card debt. Well, you got 4 of them. And this is here you're paying 20% on, this here you're paying 10, this here you're paying 15, you're paying 13. You pay the credit card off that's got the highest interest rate first. That's what they're going to advise you. But there's people out there, there's resources out there that will help you. Don't be too proud to ask for help. Everybody in their life needs help in all phases of your life. Jerry Rose just got through speaking of that too. But go to some place that can help you get out of debt. Other than that, there's financial planners out there. It's like the most important thing I can tell you about a financial planner, not I am one or whatever. You find somebody, and this is the most important. you find somebody that you know or somebody recommends them to you that you can trust. Trust is the basic thing. You read every day about financial planners scamming this, scamming that, taking people's money. You find somebody that you trust and that has your best interest at heart, not theirs. Okay? I thank you very much, and thanks for the privilege of talking to you today.
One of the aspects of the coaching life, as the video alluded to, is the stress that comes along with it, and you accept that as you become a coach, and part of it's a good thing. It promotes competition, it promotes you to do a good job, but you got to be able to deal with the stress, and you got to be able to physically and mentally deal with the stress. And our next speaker, who I'm very proud to say is my son-in-law, will come and share with you a couple of points about how he has, over the course of the years, dealt with the physical and the mental stress of, well, not being in my family, I hope, but being a coach. Coach Spencer Braggs is an assistant football coach at Southmore High School.
To follow some legends, man, this is going to be tough for me. Glad to be here, thank you. Was approached about 3 weeks ago to talk about the health and the physical and mental fitness that it takes to be a coach. Was more on the, hey, if you're a new coach, would this work? And I'm walking with my father-in-law, and we're talking, and I'm going, yeah, that's a good idea. Let's talk about the finances. Yeah, that's a good idea. Let's talk about faith and family. Yeah, that's a good idea. Hey, and let's talk about fitness. Yeah, that's a great idea. Well, we need somebody to talk about it. And he kind of stops and he looks at me, and I go, oh, wait a minute. So I'm going to give you a disclaimer right now. I am not a fitness guru. I do not have any tapes. I have not written any articles. I am not a PE certified person. I am a math teacher that happened to play football at the University of Tulsa, and the guy that was my strength and conditioning coach was an excellent guy. His name was Jeffrey Fish. He went on and was the strength and conditioning coordinator for the Atlanta Falcons, also did some time with the Raiders. And I told myself I would never, ever, ever, ever get up at 6 o'clock in the morning to try to kill myself and lift weights. And then the competitive nature came upon me whenever I was beginning to become a coach. And I kind of liked the way I looked. I was kind of vain. I like to compete, and that was, the bar and the weights do not discriminate. And so I thought, you know what, I am going to lift weights. I am going to try something else. I am going to do some things to try to stay fit. And I didn't really realize what I was doing. I've been coaching. I'm entering my 15th year, and I have no idea why I was doing what I was doing. As I have gotten older, as I've gotten married, as I have a little 4-year-old girl that will be 5 on August the 8th, it is essential for me to get my butt up and run, or get my butt up and swim, or get my butt up and lift some weights, because I am not a good person whenever I don't do that stuff. I say, well, what's a good person? Well, I'm grouchy. I don't feel right. Not that person. Just not that person. I ask my kids, and we go through this thing, you cannot go if your body and mind cannot go. We ask our players every day, and I'm a football coach. I also coach track, so there's some other coaches in here that coach other sports, but I'm talking to you football coaches. We ask our kids to get up every morning and run in this heat. School is going to start in about 2 weeks, and then we're going to ask them to go out and put on some pads in the heat of the day. And they're supposed to be ready to go. I don't care if you fall out. You should have been doing this in the summer, right? But what are you doing? What are you doing as a coach? I'll be honest with you. I started doing the lifting weights and running because I didn't want to get put in a chokehold I couldn't get out of. I like to run my mouth. I'm a competitor. I got that short guy syndrome, and you tell me to line up, and I'm going to try to do what I can to beat you. That's just how I am. As I have gotten older, The benefits of me being able to lift, run, keep myself fit, I can't go through the whole day. I can't teach 5 hours and then be asked to go 3 more at the end of the day. I would be cooked. My wife needs help with my 4-year-old who is about to be 5. So it is important for me to make sure that I get up and lift. Now, lifting ain't the only thing. Running and things of that nature isn't the only thing. You kind of need to watch what you eat, watch what you drink. I mean, let's be honest. We all like to pull back one or two every once in a while. But when you become a coach, you're setting an influence. You're that guy. Those kids are looking at you. What are you doing to promote goodness in your program? You got to be fit. You got to be ready to go. Got to be able to have that mental clear mind. So it is important that you take care of that. And football is a stressful job. I'll be honest with you. This is a different year for if you're at 2901 South Santa Fe in Moore, Oklahoma. It's a little bit different. It's way different, to be honest with you. So there is some stress that's going on. There is a different thing that's going on in our building. The best way for me to be able to disconnect is to put on my running shoes, put on my headphones, and go run for about 30 minutes. Just go get it done. That is my time to disconnect from what's going on in the field house, what's going on in my classroom, what's going on in my home, what's going on with my kid. That time, that 30-minute run, or whatever time that you put, is my time. That's my time. And as Coach alluded, you got to have that check where it's your money, it is you pay yourself first. That's my check. That's my deposit. That's my deposit. Because I'm going to ask for it on that withdrawal on that Friday night, or whenever I need to go and get a good night's rest. I sleep like a baby whenever I go and run and lift. That is what I have to have. I do not do well whenever I do not run and lift and do all those things. So get up, make sure you get up and try to get a little sweat going. And at the end of the day, I wouldn't ask my players to do something I wouldn't do. I'm going to say that again. We had a lot of coaches, and I was one of those guys in high school. You couldn't do it. Why are you asking me to do it? If you can't do it, why are you asking me to do it? I gained a lot of respect for those coaches that say, hey, if I want you to do it this way, this is what I need you to do. And they could physically be able to do that so I could be coached well. I took that to heart. That was one of the big influences that a coach gave me. And I've said, I'm going to be that coach. If I'm going to ask that kid to do this and step that way and get down and all this, that, and the other, I'm going to be able to do that. Well, kind of need to be fit. Kind of need to have some sort of fitness to yourself. So, again, I appreciate all you guys. I thank you guys. If you have any questions as far as resources or help, please come find me. I can give you a quick write-up plan. Not very, very hard. Just make sure you take care of yourselves, guys. Your kids, those players, your other fellow coaches, they need you. Thank you. Good job.
The majority of us that were hired and signed a contract that said we were going to coach, and then there's that other part of it, the teach part. And I wonder sometimes, or at least some of the guys that I hung out with early got those two things confused about, which one, what was the most important. There's got to be some balance there. There's got to be some stress relief there from that particular area. Our next speaker is going to come and talk a little bit about the classroom side of things. He's a retired superintendent from our state, also a retired coach, member of the Oklahoma Girls Basketball Coach Hall of Fame. He's also a member of our staff, David Glover.
Thanks, I'm just glad I made it here on time. Coach Rose and I were lifting before we got in here and feel a lot better about myself right now. You know, when thinking about what Mike, when we were going through this stuff and talking about it, I had a personal experience from a gentleman named Jim Slater, who was my high school principal at Fairview when I was coaching at Fairview. And Mr. Slater told me right away from the get-go, he said, "You're here to teach English. The coaching will take care of itself." And one of the biggest compliments I ever received was when a fellow teacher in our school, I overheard her telling somebody else, "Yeah, he's a coach, but he's a good teacher." And I think it's really important. And as I went through my career in the classroom, I realized that sometimes as a coach we take ourselves too seriously. You know, it's like that's the most important thing in our life. And you're looked upon differently also. I don't know I know you guys realize this, but as a coach in any school, every teacher looks at you and says, "Oh, he's a coach." You know, he's a coach. And I always took that personally when it's like they said he's a coach, that means he can't teach. And I spent a lot of time trying to be a good teacher. You know, I spent a lot of time doing that because you do have two jobs, and on the bottom line, you may not get the headlines in the newspaper because your English class made great test scores. But ultimately, that's really the most important thing that you're doing, whether it's math, social studies, history. And I wanted those teachers to know that, yeah, I was a coach, but that I taught also. And I think that's really important. And as I went into administration, I was very blessed that every school I was a superintendent at, I had really good coaches that were also the leaders of the school that were good teachers. And I think you all need to remember that, you know, that you're a professional educator first. The third thing on interaction with administration and other faculty members, I think everybody in this room, if your superintendent or your principal needs something done, somebody they're counting on, they're going to go to you. And it's because that other tag you've got. You're a coach. Coaching is leadership. That's why I think you see so many coaches that evolve and go into administration, because coaches are leaders. And so your administration is going to want to come to you and feel like they can count on you to be the example. You know, kids get surprised, going back to the classroom thing, kids also think, you know, if I'm in coach's class, well, that's going to be pretty easy. You know, but if your administrators know that you're going to go in that classroom and do the job, it makes their life easier because they don't have old Mrs. Johnson down there in the special ed room going in and griping about you. I know that probably doesn't happen to you, but it probably happens to everybody else. Your interaction with other faculty members, step up and be a leader and be the one that helps that teacher. You know, if they've got students that need some help, offer to help those kids, offer to tutor those kids. Again, because you're looked on differently because you're a coach. Anything you can do above and beyond. And by the way, I just realized I'm the only basketball guy that Coach Whaley asked to speak. It's about time some intelligence got up here. My goodness, all these football guys, I just realized that looking at these. So finally, Coach Husband, they got somebody with some smarts. Just be an example. The main thing, just be an example to the other teachers. If you're an example, it goes along to help you out. You know, kids look at you and they want that leadership. Which leads me to the interaction with students. Boy, this day and age, so many times you hear about the social media and a coach and the students, a coach texting the students. You know, if I really don't know, I wouldn't want to be in your all's shoes these days. You know, I know when Coach Rose, when they were doing rotary phones a lot, when he was trying to get a hold of people, you know, but even with me, just a phone call, calling one player to tell them to call another player, hey, we need to go to the gym. With the social media today, it's a challenge. It's a challenge to you. It's a challenge to your administration. I know some schools already have policies when in terms of social media. You know, my only advice there is just to be careful and make sure you involve all the parents. You know, if you involve the parents in all the texting and all the other things that go on, it can't do anything but help you. everybody in here has some coach that's been established that has meant a lot to them. You know, there's a guy speaking, I think, this afternoon at 2 o'clock named Dan Hayes that I was fortunate enough to play college ball for back 100 years ago. And I noticed, and I had dinner the other night with a young man, and I said, what are you doing right now? He said, well, I'm playing AAU, kid from Kingfisher. And I said, well, who are you playing for? And he said, oh, Dan Hayes. And I thought, my gosh, you know, how old is Coach Hayes now? But, you know, he coached this kid now, and he coached me in the early 80s. But Dan Hayes meant a world to me. But Dan Hayes also has had a lot of conversations with me about teaching. How many of you have a teacher that you remember besides that coach that meant a lot to you? You know, my challenge to you all would be to be that teacher that they remember. You know, challenge is to be not only the coach that they call on every now and then, but to also be that teacher that they remember that you did something in that classroom that meant a lot to them. The fulfilling requirements for professional development, I guess that just boils down. I've thought a lot about that, just doing your job. If you teach math, do the things that you need to do to be a good math teacher. You teach English, do the things you have to do to be a good English teacher, and so on. You know, just do your job. But remember, as a coach, you're looked upon by the community, by the other teachers, by the custodians, and by the administration differently than anybody else in the building. And the challenge is to be that person that they all look up to. Thank you all.
I realize it's kind of been information through the fire hose this morning. I mean, there are these topics that we've talked about. We probably could go much deeper, maybe an hour or 2 hours into each one of those. One of the things that we discussed when we were trying to put this thing together was, yes, we realize that we're only going to get the top of the iceberg on these topics, but we would like to at maybe a later date, maybe next year at the clinic, start developing a program where each year we address one or two of these. And so one of the things that we're going to do here when you leave today is over here, our staff guys are standing. They have with them a couple of different cards. In the first one here, the yellow card, you know, each one of the speakers has referenced finding some other resources to look into these topics. So there is a card there that has 5 or 6 different resources for each one of the topics. Books, websites, articles, other things within there. I know one of the things I had a very difficult time in conveying to my students in my math classes was, the asking the question, because a lot of times people think when they ask a question they're just revealing their own ignorance. So I don't know if folks will spend a lot of time asking questions about these topics, but I do know that each one of you has a computer and a phone, and you can go research these topics. And we put on the yellow sheets there different places to go for the different areas that we've talked about today. So you're more than welcome to take a couple of these. If you want to share them with friends of yours, that'd be great. The other thing that's over there today, and maybe why most of you are here, you heard this was going to happen, and I have no problem with it happening, because this was what our board, our OSSA's board contribution to this particular situation. These folks that have stood up here today and talked to you, and the reason I'm here today is I believe that you as a coach are the most impactful person at that school with those kids. Our board believes that. The OCA board believes that. Every administrator that I've ever worked for realizes the importance of their coach. We need to improve the quality of coaches' lives, but we need to improve the quantity of coaches' lives. We're getting too many folks that are coming into the profession, and fighting the same thing in the world of officiating, that come in for a few years and then they leave. Well, part of it is we didn't support them. And one of the things that I was proud when I first started, and I didn't even know it was happening to me, was that another coach and another teacher in the building grabbed me and said, I got you. All right, here's the things you need to know about teaching geometry at Charles Page High School in Sand Springs, Oklahoma. I am here for you, and I will resource you and help you through all that. I had a teacher mentor, and I had a coaching mentor. So if you would like resources like that, there's a place on this little green card that you can fill out that says, I'd like a mentor. But there's also a box that says, I'd like to be a mentor. If you think you would like to offer your expertise to somebody, and I'm talking about basically an email relationship, here's all we're talking about, is another place to go to ask that question. You know, there isn't any stupid question out there as far as the coaching life is concerned that hasn't already been asked, probably by all these people that came up here today. I greatly appreciate each one of you personally and professionally for sharing your time and your expertise here today. But what I'm more concerned about is that just like in the world of officiating, we seem to have a cycle of officials that we're going to miss out on. I'm worried that this same thing is happening in the coaching life. Are we not grabbing the young ones and mentoring them? Are young guys coming and young ladies coming to the profession and they see it for a year or two and they go, I don't want any part of this anymore? Well, I can tell you what, they can make that decision, but it's going to be over my dead body because we're going to resource them. We're going to try to give them the resources that they need. Well, this green card right here talks about if you want to have some more information on any one of the topics that we've talked today, there's a box to check. I want to know more about financial planning. I want to know more about faith and family. I want to know more about classroom management. I want to know more about physical health and mental health things. And I will get you information on that. It will come to you via the email. We will put you in touch with somebody. Your presence here today says that you think coaching is important. And I want you to know that's a great witness. Thank you so much for your time today. Please feel free to jump over and get in line.